Frontline Canada. I'm your host, Daniel Smadjevitz, and joining us tonight is none other than Arik Ze'evi. If you don't know Arik, he's a four-time Olympian with a bronze medal from Athens, four-time European champion, and a one-time world silver medalist. Also, Arik is the current chairman of the 21st Maccabea Games to take place in 2022. Without further ado, Arik Ze'evi. Arik, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
No problem. Glad to be here.
So let's get started at the beginning of your career. You're the youngest judoka to win the Israeli championships. So how did you get started in judo?
I started training when I was 7 years old in a community center near my house. But I grew up in a very bad neighborhood in Israel. It's called Pardes Katz. I don't know if you heard about it. It's kind of the Israeli version of Harlem. I started training in the shelter in the community center in Pardes Katz. It was a very small shelter, I guess 50 meters square. The mat was so thin. Every time we fell on the mat, we really felt the floor. The coach who started training me was only 16 and a half years old, just got his diploma as an instructor and opened up the club without any experience at all. The only reason I started training judo, not that the option was too high, was because that coach was my neighbor. So my elder brother started training before me, and I was following them like any young brother. It was a coincidence that I'm doing judo. Like, I think this is the story of the Israeli sports. Mm-hmm. Everything is very coincidental. You are living near a dojo, so you're training judo, and even like near a swimming pool, you are a swimmer. You can be the next Michael Phelps, the next Israeli Michael Phelps, but if you are not living next to a swimming pool, you won't even know that you have the talent in swimming. So I was lucky that the coach was my neighbor, and I had the talents to be good in judo.
You know, it's funny though, because judo and combat sports seem to be the Israeli go-to, especially the Olympic Games. I think they have 7 medals in combat sports.
5 out of 9. It's from judo.
5 out of 9. Sorry. Yeah. So why do Israelis gravitate to the combat sports?
I guess there are a few reasons why judo is so successful in Israel. I think, first of all, it's because it's a combat sport. I think we have an advantage. If you will see, 50% of the Olympic medalists in judo are from countries with of warriors like Georgia, Soviet Union Georgia, not United States Georgia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Mongolia. A mental of a warrior like Israeli has. And I think because it's a combat sport, you can, the technique in Israel is not so, the coaches in Israel are not so good, wasn't so good at the beginning. But in a combat sport, you can, you can reduce the gap if you have a fighting spirit. For example, if you're a gymnastic, my daughter is doing gymnastic. You have to be very technical, very specific. It's not help if you are a winner, if you are a fighter. In judo, if you're a fighter, you can beat the Japanese guy, even though he's more talented than you and more technical than you. So I think these two reasons are the main reason why judo is so successful. And I guess also the fact that the Russian came to Israel in the 1990, most of them were very good in different kind of Olympic sports, especially in judo. So the coach who was with me in most of my career was from Soviet Union, was from Russia. And he was a great coach, an Olympic coach, and he helped me to bring medals in Israel.
So speaking about medals, on your path to the Olympic Games, I know you have a great story of how you first qualified for the Sydney Olympics. Can you please share that with us?
It's not exactly to Sydney Olympic. In Israel, you have to understand that all the Olympic athletes are divided into group by the Olympic Committee, the swimmers, the judo players, the athletes. And when I was 20 years old, I really wanted to be in the highest Israeli Olympic Committee group. It's called the Special Group. It's a very unique name. And all the elite athletes who belong to that group got 3,000 shekel, around $800. It's okay, you can laugh. I actually have, how do you say, I know what is the average salary in the room according to the laughter in the crowd when I'm giving my talks. And I really wanted to be in that group. And I needed to be 7th place in the world in order to be in that group. So I told the head of the federation that I wanted to compete in the world championship because I think I can be in that group. I think I can finish seventh place in the world. And he told me, listen, now you're only 20 years old. Let's win one more time the European Championship till the age of 21. And I told him, listen, I believe I can be number 7 in the world. He told me, okay, go to the World Championship. I flew to Paris. The World Championship was held in Paris. I won my two first matches. One was against a guy from Georgia, and I won against a guy from Soviet Union, an Olympic medalist. I lost in the quarterfinal to a guy from Germany, and I went down to the Consolation House. Now, Consolation House is no longer exist in the world of judo, but back then, if you were losing to one of the finalists, so they gave you a chance, another chance to try to win the bronze medal, only the bronze medal. In the Consolation House, I won 2 more matches, a guy from China and a guy from Italy, and I got into the first 7th place in the world, which means I promised myself at least the 7th place in the world. I achieved my goal. When you are getting into the first 7th place in the judo competition, you have a break of 2 or 3 hours. So during the break, I immediately went to the hotel. I called my best friend, Guy. I told him, Guy, I'm number 7 in the world. I entered into the Olympic Committee group. I was so happy. He told me, okay, go back to the competition. Didn't know what to say. I went down to the hotel lobby, and I saw all the other head of the federation, all the coaches were sitting there drinking wine, celebrating the fact that the 20-year-old is already a member of the Olympic Committee. You have to understand that now they will get more money from the government. And I was sitting next to them, enjoying the compliments. And the competition starts in an hour. The break was over, and I got into the arena. I had a match against Ivan Radu from Romania. What do you think happened? I lost after a boring match. I was a little bit upset. It's not fun to lose, but pretty quickly I became very happy. After all, I achieved my goal. In the evening, I went out, I drank, I felt on top of the world. But the story is that on the next day, I came to watch the rest of the competition in the lower category. In judo, you have categories like in wrestling. And I was sitting there in the arena. I felt very happy with myself. And I saw 2 friends of mine, one from Russia and one from Moldova. Both of them are 20 years old. I know them well from the junior tour. Good judo player, but not as good as me. Nobody was the European champion till the age of 21. And I saw them fighting, winning a match after a match after a match, getting into the fight for the bronze medal and winning the bronze medal. And I watched them winning the medal, and I asked myself, how come they won a medal? They're not such a good athletes. Nobody expected them to win a medal. They're only 20 years old. And while I'm finding excuses, I became angry at myself. How come me with my 7th place, I called back to Israel, went up all night, and they came without hesitating for a second, took the bronze medal. And the thing which drove me crazy is that I looked in their eyes a few seconds before the fight for the bronze medal, and I saw in their eyes that they're going to try to win the bronze. They're going for the bronze. How could it be? And I became angry at my fellow mate, the coaches, head of federation. Nobody told me, wait, Arik, the competition isn't over. Maybe you can win the bronze medal. Everybody was so happy with my 7th place. Mm-hmm. And the thing who made me realize how bad I reacted was 2 weeks later, only 2 weeks later, I flew to a competition in Germany. And who did I meet in the first round? The same Romanian guy, the same Ivan Radu, who beat me in the world championship after I promised myself the 7th place. And I'm telling you, it was one of the easiest match that year. I threw him like 3 times. After 1.5 minutes, I won that match, which made me realize that if I wouldn't be so pleased with my 7th place, if I would have set myself a higher goal earlier to the competition, maybe I also could have won that bronze medal. But this story is to show how amateur is the sport in Israel. You know, I aim for the 7th place because that's my, the, how you call it, the people that are surrounding my working environment told me that it's a great achievement to be 7th place in the world when you're 20 years old. My friend, the Russian guy, couldn't go back to Russia with 7th place in the world and wait for a press conference. But for us to be 7th place in the world was amazing. So
big news.
Yeah, exactly. So I learned a lot from that story.
So from that 7th place, you didn't just give up. You took on the career and you kept moving up in the world of judo. Then came the Sydney Olympics and you finished 5th, correct?
Yeah, I finished 5th. There is a story in the Sydney Olympic Games.
Please share.
Yeah. I lost there on the fight for the bronze medal because the referee did a mistake. Now, I'm not saying he did a mistake because I lost. The same referee got suspended for 2 years because of that mistake.
Wow.
But it didn't change the fact that I remained without an Olympic medal. It was a very difficult moment for me because, it's one thing to lose. It's not fun to lose, but if a guy beat me according to the rules, so, I learned how to deal with that. But it's a different thing to lose because the referee did a mistake. Because I remember I told myself, okay, I will continue to the next Olympic game. I will be the best in the world. And again, another referee came can make another mistake. And the suddenly I realized that not everything is under my control. And it was very difficult for me to decide to continue to another Olympic cycle, because I want to know that if I'm good, if I deserve a medal, I will get it. And if I'm not good, it's okay. But then I realized that not everything is under my control, and it took me like 2 or 3 weeks to decide that I'm continuing to Athens Olympic game, because I really felt bad right after that loss.
Of course.
Yeah.
So when that happens, is there anything that you can do as an athlete? Is there, can you contest it? Is there recourse for you?
Right now, it's the last 3 years, I think 4 years. Judo is the referee has the camera, and they can see the every action in replay. So
Okay.
there are fewer mistakes of the referee. The mistakes are not as harsh as I had it. But back
Hmm.
then, if the referee decided something, that's it. It was done. Like in football, not in football, in soccer.
Soccer.
Before the VAR, yeah, exactly. In football, they are very computer wise.
So that's a crushing defeat at the Sydney Olympics. It took you 2 to 3 weeks to decide I'm going to go forward and try for Athens. So
Exactly.
you use that obviously to motivate yourself moving forward. What so every day, what would you tell yourself that you're good enough to win a gold medal? How do you use this? How does it motivate you?
I did two things. First of all, I told myself, if I will quit now, I will give up my biggest dream to be an Olympic medalist. It means that I'm giving the referee two ways to beat me. He took my medal and he made me retired. So I decided I don't give him this prize. And the second thing I did is that I took that video, the 20-second, the part of the referee did his mistake. And every time I needed to be motivated, to be filled with anger, I watched that tape, got so mad, filled with anger, and went back to training. This, I think it took me, this tape helped me like for 1 or 1.5 years. Every time I felt that I needed something to cheer me up, it seems funny that it cheers me up, but when I'm upset, when I'm angry, I'm training better. So I needed to something that
Yeah.
will play on it. Yeah. So I used this tape for 1.5 years at least.
And it's a long time between, you're 4 years in between Olympic Games. So every day you must have been itching to get back to the mat, to get to Athens. And
Yeah.
when you finally walked into the opening ceremonies and realized you have this redemption in front of you, what was going through your mind?
First of all, Olympic game is once every 4 years, but you have very important goals during this period. For example, I wanted to be the first European champion in the history of the male judo, and I did that in 2001. 1 year after Sydney Olympic game, I won my first European title, and I won the second place, the silver medal in the World Championship in the open category. Actually, between Sydney and Athens in this Olympic cycle, I took 3 times the gold medal in the European Championship.
Wow.
And it's a very big thing in Israel, because there isn't any athlete in Israel, not only in judo, in every sport, that took more than 2 gold medals in European Championship, and I have 4, and I did 3 of them in that cycle. So in this cycle, I was one of the strongest. How do you say, favorite for an Olympic medal for Israel, or even an historical gold medal, because Gal Friedman didn't won that medal back then. And I have to tell you that the moment that I was walking in the opening ceremony with the Israeli flag, I felt two things. One of them, I felt very proud. It's very exciting. It's like a dream come true. But the second thing, I felt very stressed, because I really felt I was under a lot of pressure before Athens. Weeks before Athens, every time I was walking in the street in Israel, everybody shouted to me, don't let us down, Ze'evi, we are counting on you. And I'm not a football player. I wasn't used to people that are coming to talk with me and even knows me. And to have this thing on my shoulder, I felt very stressful in Athens. Very.
But you accomplished your goal. You earned a bronze medal. You won that bronze medal. So what was that moment like?
I feel a little bit embarrassed to say that, but the first feeling was relief. In Israel, you can be a 3 times world champion, European champion. If you don't have an Olympic medal, it's like you didn't do it. It's like you're
Hmm.
not a good enough athlete. And I knew that I need that Olympic medal in order to say, okay, I'm a good athlete. Now I can breathe and to aim for different goals. But the first feeling was a relief. And afterwards, I felt a little bit happy, but I have to tell you that few weeks after, even less, 2 weeks after Athens, I felt very disappointed because I was sure that I could have won that gold medal in Athens. I deserved that medal. That year in 2004, I didn't lose any match that year. I even didn't fall even in one time in a combat that year. And I think that was I think if I wasn't under so much pressure, I could have won that gold medal. So I felt, from one side, I feel very proud that from the shelter in Pardeskats, I brought an Olympic medal. But on the other hand, I felt a little bit frustrated, and you know, I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't win the gold medal. But I think every athlete feels like this after he retired. I don't know.
Of course, that's what makes athletes so special, is that you always think you can do better.
Exactly.
And is that what motivated you to continue on? Because then you competed also in 2008 and 2012.
No, after Athens, I was sure that I will continue. I was only 27, 28 years old. I felt I was at my best shape, really. I, I I felt that I'm one of the best. There was only one Japanese guy that beat me that time, and he right after Athens Olympic Game he decided to move to another category to 100 plus. So I felt like I will win now every competition. I felt very secure. I took a long break after Athens. I went to India and Thailand for 2.5 months. It was my first vacation ever. I really enjoyed it, and when I came back, I felt I com- I came back on February 2005 or January 2005. And 3 months later, I took the silver medal in the European Championship without even training. So I felt very good. But the thing who I think even changed my career was 1 week before the World Championship that year. I was the favorite for the gold medal, and I trained really hard. And the World Championship was held in Egypt, in Cairo. And for me, it was, the best thing to be a world champion in Cairo, to play the national anthem there. And 1 week before the world championship, I got injured in my shoulder,
Oh.
and I didn't compete. I did an operation, and I was out of judo for 8 months. And I think I wasn't the same athlete after the operation. The hand wasn't like before, and I lost a lot of technique that I did before. And I think this point, I'm blaming myself on that injury because I could have prevented. But for me, to continue after Athens was obvious. To continue after Beijing, that was a little bit,
So I just want to touch on that for a second. You mentioned how you were going to compete in Cairo. What do you think when we see these stories every so often where athletes refuse to compete against Israelis? How does that? What does that make you think? How does it make you feel?
First of all, the guys from Egypt are competing against Israel. Some of them are not shaking our hands right after the match, like Orisa Son had in Rio. And I think the athletes from Egypt you can divide them to two groups. There are the guys that are very open, Western, they're saying hello, they're shaking our hands, and they're very nice. And there are the radicals, the guy who competed against Sori is very orthodox, very radical, and they're not saying hello to the Israeli team, even though they are competing against us, but they're very, I don't know. You see that they don't like Israel, which is very surprising for me because these guys was born after the peace with Egypt, which meant that they don't have, if a Palestinian hates Israelis, you can understand him. I don't know, because he grew up when Israel is attacking them, or you can feel where it comes from. But when a guy who is 30 years old from Egypt hates Israel, it's a little bit strange, because it means that somebody educated to hate us. Because I don't hate Egypt. I don't know. I don't have any feeling for Egypt, and it's really surprising. And the funny thing is that athletes from Iran, for example, that are not competing against us, are very nice people. They're always saying hello when there is no camera around, and they are very liberal. And the only reason they are not showing up against us is because they are not allowed to do that. It's not because they choose to do that. And it's a sport. It's tragedy. The most tragic story was in Athens, actually. In 66 kilogram, we had an Israeli guy competed there. His name is Udi Vax, and his first round was supposed to be against the Iranian guy, Mira Masmili was his name. And this Iranian guy was two-time world champion. He was the favorite for a gold medal. He was an amazing judo player, and he didn't show up for the match because Udi was from Israel. So he was disqualified. And the funny thing is, when he came back to Iran, they made him a very special evening, and they gave him a $150,000, like he won the gold medal, and the medal like he won a gold medal. But he knows that he didn't win an Olympic medal because his government. And I don't know if you know the story with the Sagimuki and the Iranian guy. You know him?
Yes.
It's an actor. So the reason he left Iran and now he's representing Mongolia was because he knew that there is a good chance that he will meet Sagi in the Olympic Games, and he will have to withdraw from the mat. So he decided to leave Iran. It's an amazing story in the world of judo, and now he's representing Mongolia. And and it's if I was Iranian, I don't know what would have done. It's crazy that you are not allowed to compete because of politics. But what can we do?
Yeah. And then you see the opposite ends of the spectrum when Israelis win gold medals in various championships in Arab countries, and they play the national anthem, and those videos go viral, at least here in Canada. Everyone is so happy and full of pride.
Yeah, I'm sure. Actually, I didn't compete in Abu Dhabi or Dubai. They didn't allow us back then to compete. But, we have, like I said to the Egyptian guy, for me, the countries of the Gulf, Emirates, Abu Dhabi, I don't have a bad feeling for them. The Arab country, but I know they are very Western and very liberal. And for me, I didn't, for me, it's not strange to compete there. I think that it's more symbolic than I think an Israeli judo player that is going to compete in Abu Dhabi, it's not like in Egypt. In Egypt, when you learn in history, we had the wars against them in Jordan and Syria. Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Bahrain are countries that that they are Arab countries, but we don't have history with them. So for me, it's a little bit strange to feel I don't know, excited about it. But I can understand the political side. I can understand
the feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
So after competing at the Olympic Games, you started a foundation, correct? The Israeli Foundation for Olympic Excellence. Exactly. Tell us a little bit about that and what the goal is.
Okay, first of all, I don't know if you all know, Israel is ranked number 89 in the world in Olympic achievement. We have only 9 Olympic medals. And I knew that we are not one of the best nations in sports, but only in my last Olympic game in London, I realized how bad is our situation. I drove back to the Olympic Village with a friend of mine from Hungary. It was on the 4th day of the games. And he asked me, spontaneous, tell me, Arik, how many Olympic medals Israel has? So I told him 7. We had only 7 back then. So he told me, wow, amazing, not bad. You mean only now in London, yes? I told him, are you crazy? We are on the 4th day. I'm telling you, in all our history, in all sports. And I saw that he was shocked. And I asked him, why are you so shocked? You're from Hungary. You're not from United States, Canada, or Russia. He told me, I don't know. We have 164 gold medal, 145, 452 Olympic medal Hungary had. And now it was my turn to be shocked. And for the first time in my life, I started to find out how many Olympic medals as countries with the same population as Israel. And I realized that Bulgaria is 217, and Finland is 303, and Denmark 194, and even the tiny Liechtenstein had 9 Olympic medals. And it really made me feel bad. And the thing who really drove me to establish that nonprofit was when we came back from London, from the Olympic Games, unfortunately without any medals. Everybody started to say the same thing that after the Israeli soccer team is losing, it's because of the Israeli mentality and because of the Jewish gene. And I hate when people say that because I don't think there's something wrong with the Israeli mentality. Otherwise, we won't be so successful in high tech. We won't have one of the strongest army in the world. We won't have so many Nobel Prize winners. What only the athletes are Israelis, and there's nothing wrong with the Jewish gene. I checked it out. There are more than 700 Olympic medals gained by Jews, but not under the flag of Israel. I will tell you even more than that. You know, Jews is 0.5% of the population of the world, but the percentage of Olympic medal gained by Jews is 2.5%, which means that even comparing to our size, we are talented in sports. So I needed to do a change, and I decided to establish this nonprofit in order to change the Israeli sport, and to do it by changing the environment. First of all, to scout the talented kids, then to nurture them, and then to navigate them to the right sport. You know, I did judo because my coach was my neighbor, and if it was a karate coach, so I was doing karate. Karate is not an Olympic sport, so I wasn't an Olympic athlete. And if he was the coach of an Olympic sports, but that are not suitable for my how do you say, for my talent. For example, it was a swimming coach. I wouldn't be an Olympic athlete. So I was lucky, and I want to try to make a system in Israel to try to make it, because Israel really loves sport. The Israeli people love sports, love to watch sports, and they're good in sports. They just need to have the right system, and I think we will have much more medals.
So what's the foundation doing on a day-to-day basis? I mean, how are you preparing for the next summer's hopeful Olympic Games in Tokyo? What can we look forward to?
Actually, I decided to concentrate on the kids and cadets. I think that if you are 18 years old or 20 years old in Israel and you are a part of the Olympic Committee, so you are well, they are taking care of you. You have physiotherapists, you have the support. You know, it's not a problem if you are getting to the age of 20, but the problem is when you are kids. It's everything is very amateur. You know, all the sports in Israel is running by private clubs, and as you know, when the club is private, the coach is getting paid according to the number of kids he has, not according to the number of results. So most of the clubs in Israel are sportive club for fun. It's called in Israel chugim. You know, you're doing like a sportive babysitter. You're doing Judy for fun. And I don't have a problem with that, but you don't have another system that are taking the serious kids and trying to bring them to an Olympic level. We don't have it in Israel. So the thing I'm doing right now, first of all, I'm going to elementary schools in Israel, and I'm doing scouting. I'm doing exams to scout the talented kids, girls and boys, of course. And you will be amazed. I'm doing it already for 6 years. 75% of the girls that I scouted didn't do sports before I scouted them. You know, they went to dancing, you know, they did some jazz lesson. Few of them did some rhythmic gymnastic. You know, if a girl is doing sport in Israel, it's most of the chance it will be gymnastic or rhythmic gymnastic, things like more girly.
Yeah.
You won't see Israeli girls going to basketball, to soccer. You know, in the States, soccer is one of the amazing most popular sport for girls. In Israel, it doesn't exist. So first of all, I'm scouting the kids, and when you're going, for example, to the periphery area, you see that even the boys are not doing sport because it's expensive, or I don't know why. For example, I have a project in the Arabic school in Jaffa, and I scouted 25 kids. Only one kid did sports before I scouted him. Soccer. If you're an Arabic kids in Israel, if you don't play soccer, you're not doing any other sport. It's only soccer for boys. So first of all, I'm scouting there. I'm going to the schools in order to find them. then I'm giving them the opportunity to try 3 different kind of sports: athletic, judo, bicycle, volleyball. Depends on the population and on the coach I have. And then in the end, on the 7th grade, when they're 11, 12 years old, I'm navigating to the sports that are suitable for their talent. You're not going to basketball because you like it and your friend is there. You're going to basketball because you can be good at basketball. And I'm saying basketball on purpose because it's a very unique sport. You have very talented kids that are doing basketball. They are good at basketball when they are young, but if you will see their parents, you will see that they won't be so tall and they won't have chance to be a basketball player. And they they realize it when they are 15 years old, something like that, and then it's too late to do different sports. And when I'm taking them, I'm giving them the opportunity to do different kind of sport, and then they can see if they are talented. They can see that they are also good in athletic, and they're also good in judo, they're also good in taekwondo, and they suddenly realize that they won't be a basketball player because they are not tall enough. So maybe I will go to taekwondo. I'm giving them the opportunity, and right now in Israel they don't have the opportunity. So I'm focusing on this age. When they will be 18 years old, I'm not involved in that, and that is, I think I'm not against the Olympic Committee. I'm working with them. Actually, few of my projects are sponsored by the Olympic Committee, the Israel Olympic Committee, because they understand that if there will be a very better system in Israel in youth, they will have more and more good athletes when they will be seniors. So it will take time. The only problem that it will take time. When I'm going to talk with the government, with the Secretary of Sports, I'm telling them that this project can take, 8 years, 10 years. They are looking at me like I'm crazy. 8 years? Are you crazy? I want a project that will bring me result next year.
But, in 8 years, Israel will have 30 elections, so you'll have a new minister of sport by then, a few times over.
Exactly.
So how has the recent success of Israeli athletes impacted the youth? I mean, Netta Rivkin, she just won the gold medal in rhythmic gymnastics the other day. Deni Avija drafted into the NBA by Washington. Team Israel qualified for the Olympics in baseball. So that must have a positive effect.
Yeah, I think it helps. I can see that in judo, when we started to bring Olympic medals, so it became, people started to recognize judo and started to love judo. So it helps because it makes kids to go to try this sport. So you have like 20 or 30,000 kids that are doing judo. It wasn't like this 20 years ago. And I think it helps to bring these sports to the mainstream. But then you have to know how to work. In rhythmic gymnastics, we are good because most of the coaches there are from Russia. They came with the Russian mentality, with the Russian technique, and they built something from scratch. It took them 15 years to make the rhythmic gymnastic, I think, one of the best sports in Israel, because there was nothing before the Russian came to Israel, and most of the coaches were professionals. But the problem in different sports that we don't have the right coach to take the kids that are coming to the sport to come. For example, baseball. Now I won't say it's very popular in Israel, but it starts to be something. And if they will succeed in the Olympic Games, it will be even more popular. But then you have to have the right coaches in order to do something with the kids, to try to build them right. So it helps, of course. But if you don't have a right system, like we have now in judo, we have the method, we have the results, we have the role models, we have the knowledge. So it's easier to succeed now in judo. And in other sports, we usually don't have this system.
Very understandable. So let's take this to an issue that Maccabi Canada is close to our heart, and a lot of people watching care about the Maccabi Games. You're chairman of the 21st Maccabi Games taking place now in 2022. Should have been next summer, but 2022. So first off, tell us, what is the responsibility of the chairman?
First of all, I was very surprised that they asked me to be the chairman because, I didn't even think about it, even though I really like Maccabi. I competed in the Maccabi. I was the guy who was carrying the flag in one of the Maccabi, even one of the guy who held the torch when Ali Reisman was the girl who was the last one with the torch, and I was very surprised and very flattered because usually guys are more experienced than me are the chairman of the Maccabea, and actually I'm in charge of the games itself. You have the Maccabi World Maccabi Union that that they are working on a daily basis, and the Maccabea is the event. It's like the Olympic Games that from now it's 1 year and 10 months before we are working it. For example, tomorrow I'm meeting the general managers of the hotels that the athletes will stay there. This is the first people that we are signing the agreement with them in order to secure the beds that they will come in 2022. So actually, we are working from now in order to have the Maccabea in 2022. But I have to be honest, the CEO, Roy Essing, as you know, is working harder than me. I have to be in charge, to see that everything works. But I will tell you the truth, the Maccabea can be as successful as the last one, and I'm trying to give a touch, my touch. Otherwise, why I'm there? I want to put my effort in two things. First of all, is the sportive experience. I think it's a very I don't know how to say it. A guy from Argentina can come to Israel to compete in judo, and he can lose on the first fight after 10 seconds. And that's it. That's his all sportive experience in the Maccabea. And I wanted to make something else for him, that he will have something added to the competition. So I decided that in all sports, we are now working on it, we will try to bring a very well-known guy. For example, in judo, there is Teddy Reiner, the French guy. You know him? He's the Olympic champion, the guy who beat Orisa Son in the Olympics. Never mind, a guy who is very well known in the world.
I trust you. I trust you.
We will do it in every sport, and after the competition, we will have like a clinic with this guy. And the guy from Argentina, he will make a seminar with him. He will work with him. So we'll have a sport more powerful experience, in sport of judo, not to compete for 1 day for 10 seconds. But I did a seminar and I worked with a guy from China and a guy from Canada and a guy from Israel, and he will feel that he was in a sportive experience. That's my first goal, to try to do that. Of course, to bring the best Jewish athletes all over the world. This is for granted. And the second thing, I'm trying to make the next Maccabea more technological. He always says that Israel is the high-tech company and startup company. And
startup nation.
Last Maccabea, I heard that in Last Maccabea, the website didn't work so well. So I think we are so good at high-tech. So I want the athletes that are coming to the Maccabea will feel it, will see it. So we are doing few cooperation with very important company in Israel. I can tell you of some of them. One of them is Pixalot. It's a startup company. Actually, they are broadcasting a sportive event, but they are focusing on the events of high school competition or not the highest level. They have one camera, a very smart camera, that you can watch the game and you can press, for example, number 10 in the blue shirt, and you can see all this movement in the game, in the basketball game. So we are trying to put this camera in every event in the Maccabea, in the next Maccabea. So the parents in Canada can see his kid competing. It won't be on the national TV. Yeah, but you will see him on live stream. I think it's very important. The guy from Canada delegation is coming to Israel, and the guy from tennis doesn't know what his friend from judo did because he can't see him. He doesn't know it. So he will have a link, and he can go to watch him competing in judo. And I want to make it in every event in the next Maccabea. And we have also a cooperation with the Move It. I don't know if you heard about it. They did an exit a few months ago. Intel bought them in $1 billion. Actually, one of the founders is a friend of mine. He was in judo. He was good in judo, but not good enough. So he went to high tech, and now he won his Olympic medal. Yeah. So they will be in charge on the transport in the Maccabea, and they will have there were times that in the Maccabi you finish your game and you were waiting for the bus, and sometimes the games are delaying, and so they have like a go taxi but go bus. You finish your game, you are pressing, and the bus is coming. So everything will be more technological, and we are working on few different things that will make the experience the more technological, more fun to the athletes. This is the two parts that I'm putting my hands on it, and of course try to raise more money and try to use the name that I earned in Israel in order to open some doors, even though the head of Maccabi knows more people than I know.
It's a huge responsibility, but even more so, at least in 2017, we had 10,000 athletes from 80 countries coming to Israel. Many of these athletes and their families, their first time ever visiting Israel, it was for the Maccabi Games. So it's a huge responsibility that you're showing them the country. Their first introduction to Israel is through the games. So
yeah.
How does it make you feel that you have this pressure on your shoulders?
Actually, Amir, the chairman of Maccabi, World Maccabi, I told him that I'm very honored, but I'm a little bit afraid. It's a huge event with very big responsibility, as you said. A lot of money is involved, but the thing to make me feel a little bit more comfortable is that all the guys that are working with me, it's their third or fourth Maccabi games. They are used to do it. Roy and Galil and Eyal Tibergerg, the CEO, and Amir. Amir was the last chairman. So I felt very secure that I'm in good hands. It's not like, they threw me to the water and I don't know what to do. If I need to get a good advice, so I'm talking with Amir and he's helping me to. So otherwise, I don't think I would take it. I hate to do things that I think that are not, I can't do them. But because I knew that I have a very good team and they can do it even without me, so I felt secure to be there and to try to put my touch in few different things. But the Maccabi game will be great and will be greater than the last one.
Amazing. So I'll have one last question for you, Arik, because we have a lot of young athletes that are watching this episode, a lot of former Maccabi athletes and future Maccabi athletes. What advice can you share with them from your experience? What's the one takeaway that you want them to leave with tonight?
Okay, I think the thing I can tell them, I won't tell them you have to work hard or things like that. I think the best thing that I got from sport, it's not the medal that I won or the publicity I got in Israel. It's the fact that due to sport, I learn how to know myself better, to know myself in moments of failure, in moments of stress, in moments of difficulty. And I think this period of me being a competitive athlete made me earn some tools or gain some tools that helped me even after sports. And the thing I'm trying to say is that, all of them want to be as good as they can, the best that they can. But they have to understand that now they are doing things for themselves. They are learning, I call it mental education. You're going to school to get education. You're going to competitive sports in order to get mental education. And I think the Corona taught us that mental education is much more important than other education. To deal with failure, to deal with stress, that the things that will go with me for the rest of my life. So the thing I'm trying to tell them is that try to identify those moments when you are failing. Try to see what helps you to recover from this failure. Who helps you to recover from this failure? If you're nervous, try to identify what helps you to be more relaxed. These are the moments that you are teaching yourself to gain the tools that will help you to succeed in the rest of your life. And sports, it's till the age of 30, 35. I retired when I'm 36. It was very old, but you have a lifetime afterwards. And I think it's a good thing that they're doing sports, and I think they will see that many things that they learn in sport will help them after sports.
Fantastic advice. So Arik, thank you so much for your time. Toda rabah. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
to see you in Israel in 2022, hopefully before, but 2022 for sure. And once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Daniel. It was my pleasure, and I hope to be in Canada again. I really liked the last time that I was there, so I hope the Corona will let us be there soon.
Bruchim Mabayim, anytime.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Have a good night. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Frontline Access. This has been the season finale of the show. Join us again in early 2021 for more fantastic episodes with incredible athletes from around the world.